Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Craig.
See, you know I'm going to say this, Anna. You know this, and yet there's always a distinct pause while you're like, he's going to make me say hi to the AI.
Well, not to peel back the curtain, but we have company, so I wasn't sure you were still going to do it, but no, you did.
Oh, no, man. We could have anyone join us. We could have like multiple guests, and I would still say hi to Craig, because I believe that I need to be polite to my robot overlords so that when they take over the world, they think of me fondly.
That'd be nice.
But we do have a guest joining us this week. I think for regular listeners, they already know who's here as we set this up. So thank you for showing up, Lachlan. It would have been a whole lot of, mea culpa had you not been here. But Lachlan Irvin is here to join us. He is going to put the best into the best mediocre Canucks and Golden Eyes podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I shout out to producer Craig over here
producer Craig.
I assume that's their role here. We've been talking about having me on to talk about the Golden Eyes and everything for a while. So I'm glad I could make sure you didn't lie to your listeners.
No, I mean it has happened. I mean things come up like it does, but I'm trying to think who it was, but they actually had to like reschedule twice on us, and each time the setup was they'll be here, and then I think it might have been Wyatt. Maybe that
sounds like Wyatt. Wyatt has a pretty big ego, so that sounds like him. That sounds like he'd do.
Also our number one enemy of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. He knows what he did.
So, yeah,
of course.
I don't, but he knows.
Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure it's warranted. Completely warranted. I was initially going to send my cardboard cutout, but, I decided I could make an appearance today.
Well, I appreciate it. So our listeners don't see this because we're just an audio-only podcast. But you got a series of jerseys behind you. I'm genuinely curious why the Buffalo Sabres are getting such prominent attention to your wall.
Oh, honestly, it was just there were a couple reasons. Number one being I haven't hung that jersey up on the wall in a long time. So I was like, oh, why not? Let's just throw it up there. It's a terrible jersey, but for anyone who can't see it, it is the yellow third jersey from like 2014, something or like one of the last years when they were really, really bad at the beginning of their like playoff drought. It's a Ryan Miller jersey. It's
okay.
That's acceptable then.
Exactly. Yeah. I got it on eBay for like $20 like 5 or 6 years ago. And yeah, it's just a bad jersey that I enjoy, so that I thought was funny to have. So thought I'd throw it up on the wall today. Went for a bit of, I guess, a 2014 kind of era thing going on in the background. I got the Millionaires jersey up in the back as well. Mm-hmm. I've got the Whitecaps just because the Whitecaps deserve recognition right now as the best team in Vancouver.
Yeah, they and aside from breaking my heart yesterday.
And everyone else.
Yeah, it's a shame that your team, scores 2 goals and loses a game 3-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, our listeners know I've been high on the Vancouver Whitecaps. I am a soccer fan first. It's the sport I grew up with. It just happened to be that I haven't been as active in the social media sense with the team. But, I was on a run. It was good. And then I had so much faith when they tied it up on Saturday that the soccer gods were looking down upon Vancouver and would grace us with an MLS Cup. But it wasn't meant to be.
No.
Too much pain in this city.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know what? At the same time, like with the Whitecaps, like I was watching the game. I was at the Golden Eyes game because it was playing at the same time. Mm-hmm. I had it on my laptop. Me, Izzy Chung from the Hockey News, and Steve Ewan from the Province. We were all watching off of my laptop as the game's going on. and they tie it. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is Vancouver's night. And then it goes, and then that second goal goes in the other way. And you kind of knew at that point, it's like, well, this is probably the end of the run. But at the same time, with these Whitecaps, I think just the fact of everything that's gone on with Thomas Muller and just almost this whole rebirth for the Whitecaps, like them losing is almost like it sucks, but I almost feel like it is the first like half of a bigger story, and that they'll be back. Like it doesn't feel like this was their one shot and they missed it. This feels like the start of something bigger.
It does. In fact, like if I were to tell you what my expectations were going into the season, just hoping my team didn't get sold. That was it. Like I wasn't even thinking about postseason. And now having watched the season, I still don't want them to be sold. But next season, I expect them to win. Like that is my expectations are set. Probably higher than what my expectations were for the 2011-2012 Vancouver Canucks.
That might be true, honestly.
Yeah, because it's still crazy to think of that season as a President Trophy winning season. I think that was just a bad year for hockey.
It was going through the motions. That's what 2011-12 was for me. It was like, yeah, this is all well and good, but it doesn't matter. You have to win in the playoffs. Like everything leading up to the playoffs didn't matter because they just needed to win.
Well, no, walk that back. Game 8 was very important that season.
That's true. Yes. Game 8 against the Bruins was very important. Everything else. Everything else didn't matter. It was like, just okay, the season doesn't start until April. That's when the season starts, and then it ended.
Problem is that's when it ended too. So
yes.
Oops. We're going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks, though. This isn't a Whitecaps or a reminisce about the good old times episode. It is the Vancouver Canucks and the Vancouver Golden Knights. Both have had some struggles as of late, though if we're counting teams that won on the weekend, while the Whitecaps were not one of them, both the Golden Knights and Canucks did. So we're going to pick Lachlan's brain as to what might be happening with both, how both can turn things around if the turnaround has occurred, and everything else that we might be able to squish into a usual episode. But why don't we dive into Rewind? Last week we started with the Vancouver Canucks. This week we're going to start with the Vancouver Golden Knights. So they still had a game on the road trip to wrap up before coming back here to the Pacific Coliseum, and they got to take on the Boston Fleet. The score was 2-0 for Boston. I mean, that was the final. And if you were to discount everything that occurred in the first period, it was a pretty close game.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I'd put it. It was that first period was very rough. They I think it was 15 shots on goal for Boston, something along those lines. And Vancouver had 2. At one point they had none for most of the period. And it really did cement the whole. Familiar. Yeah, it really does. Only, you're willing to give more grace to this team. The Golden Knights have an excuse, which is that they're an expansion team and they're learning, and these are all players from a bunch of different franchises all coming together to try to pull in the right direction. And there were I think we all at the beginning of the season, we maybe put a little bit too much pressure on them to be great right out of the gate.
Whoa. What are you trying to tell me? That my prediction that they were going to run the gauntlet the entire season was
perhaps a touch premature. Yes. I think we're learning very quickly that this league, it doesn't yes, you can have all the names, you can have you look at Boston's team, there's not a lot of players on that team that, as far as the casual hockey fan goes, might know or recognize compared to some of the other teams in the league. But you watch them play and they're such a machine. They were passing, all their passes were right on the money. Their ability to forecheck was just unrelenting. And you could tell that even though maybe they don't have the name brand players that some of the other teams do, that they have the team chemistry and the team talent to get it done. And that's why even when Vancouver kind of pushed back later, that made all the difference.
Yeah, I'd watched the game sort of from the second period on. One of the struggles about really any game in the East during the week is my work day does not always coincide smoothly with the puck drop. And I tuned in, and the first question I was asking, both in the GoldenEye subreddit and as well as social media, is: Am I reading the score bug correctly, or is that a mistake? Because at the time it was like 22-2 in shots or something like that, just early into the second.
Mm.
But the fact that the game was 1-0, that is why in my mind I'm like, there's no way that shot total is correct. So it was.
Yeah.
Unreal that they're only down by one, and I think it reinforces how important Mashmeyer is to the Vancouver Golden Knights, and having any real opportunity to get points right now.
Yeah, I mean, and not to fast forward too far into the future, but I was saying in a different group chat recently, just talking to some friends about how I think Mashmeyer might be the best goaltender in Vancouver right now. I think very easily
Best
she is
healthy
the best
one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the best healthy one, absolutely. And yeah, stop me if you heard this one before. A Vancouver team being carried by their goaltender. It's a bit of a theme around these parts. Mashmeyer is so good, and just from like I've had the fortune of being able to talk to her quite a few times since the season started, and it's clear that like even though she's like a veteran, she's been playing pro hockey for quite a long time now. She talked about how much she's always learning, and and
Mm-hmm.
even as into her like as a certified veteran of this team, she's not just resting on what she already knows. She's learning and working with their goalie coach Joey Alley very like carefully on like learning new things and adjusting to the game as it goes. And you're seeing it from the fact that just the start of this season, like she was coming off an injury last year in Ottawa. She didn't end up playing in the finals for the Charge, and there's definitely she's gonna put some pressure on herself to perform, and yet she's gone out there and she's been fantastic out of the gate. Sure, and this is a league that's full of really good goaltenders, is what I'm learning as I go here. Because like even for me, this is a bit of a I come from the NHL, so I've watched a few PWHL games. All of this is a new experience for me, just as much as it is for any of the expansion team players,
Mm-hmm.
and you're seeing, Mash is clearly just going to be the foundation for this team, and she's leading this team by example. She's a leader both in how she plays and how she is in the locker room, on the bench, in between whistles. Like she carries herself as a leader, and she's learning, and she's growing as a player every single game.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about Boston being like that real team, because something I noticed, especially in the first game the Golden Knights had, was some of the senior players, for example, taking really long shifts. And I think Daniel Wagner mentioned, a lot of the players are used to being sort of not just like leaders on their team, but the best players, and kind of needing to step up. And Boston have learned to play more as team players, and Golden Eyes are kind of learning that as well.
Yeah, it's and you look at a team. Yeah, again, like they have even though only the league's only been around for 3 years. It's clear that all of the other teams, and you can throw in New York into this, you can throw Ottawa into this, comparatively both to Vancouver and Seattle as well, who obviously the Golden Eyes beat in their first game. Like you can tell that just those extra 50 or so games that they've had more or less as a group has served them very well. And even though everyone's looking at the Vancouver roster like, oh, look at all the names of this team, look at all the talent that they have, you're right, there's not as much puck to go around for all of those players, and they're having to learn when is their turn when do they call their own number versus when are they passing off, when are they making the play or taking a hit to make a play kind of thing. And so you can tell that every game they are learning as a group on, okay, when is it my turn to take charge here, and not in a way that's like, oh, it's my job to lead the team, so much as it is just when is the right time for me to take a shot versus passing off to someone else, and making sure that that we're working as a group here to get to the end and win.
Totally.
The sort of takeaway I had from the Boston game is that, being down just one goal going into the second win, Vancouver did wake up. You still saw that disconnect that really exists with any expansion team where players don't quite have the coordination as to where each other will be, the trust in that teammate being available when you need them, whether it to be dropping back in coverage or finding that open ice. But it's equally problematic when, Aaron Frankel is standing on her head. The few opportunities that Vancouver got, which were top tier. Like Jen Gardner, to this point, this game, couldn't buy a goal. Like could drop down the MasterCard and it would be declined, even though she's got no limit on that sucker. It just, and it's not a knock on the opportunity or the effort on her part, but, Frankel, I don't want to say outplayed Mashmeyer, didn't, but functionally did what Mash was doing the rest of the way. And I think we're going to have to become more accustomed to games like that, maybe on the road, hopefully not at home. It's a very small sample size, which we'll get into a little bit later. But Vancouver does, unfortunately, wrap up that road trip over. Thankfully, record at home, not so bad. They're 1-for-1. So they happen to come home and take on those New York Siren that had beaten them 5-2 previously. Unfortunate for the Golden Knights that they ran up against the kickoff of the Vancouver Whitecaps and Inter Miami match. I genuinely wonder, because I think there was only, 9,500 or so in the Coliseum?
Yep, exactly 9,502 was the attendance.
Yeah, I genuinely wonder how many people weren't there because of that conflict. Not to suggest that, there's a lot of, cross-pollination between a Whitecap supporter and a Golden Knights supporter. I'm certain there's a good number, though, of Vancouver sports fans. And as sort of you had mentioned, even in the press box, there was sort of a passing eye to what was happening in Fort Lauderdale. But we also got word that Sarah Nurse, who had been, I think, day-to-day, was much more than day-to-day. She was retroactively placed on the long-term injured reserve, having suffered that injury that she picked up in the first game, and is out at least until next week, I believe. If I understand roster rules correctly, though, there's no guarantee she's back before the holidays. Not necessarily the best news. Happen to be a Golden Knights fan. Yet, spoiler alert, didn't seem to slow them down all that much. Vancouver, came out hot and did what they needed to do, primarily in that first period, and held on sort of the rest of the way. I have to add an asterisk. I myself was not watching that game. I was watching Vancouver Whitecaps FC, so I apologize. I only saw the highlights.
Wow.
So I could be very much misleading all of our listeners here. Yeah. I can't say no. I don't want to say yes because it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, there was a noticeable, I think, absence. I know a few people that had season tickets that decided not to go to the game and, maybe didn't necessarily make arrangements for that. And I get it. Like, it's a final. Like, this is just regular season game, as exciting as it is. But it was still, I still felt like the atmosphere was good in the building. The fans are very engaged. Also, I will say, this is the first time in a long time that a professional sports team has received feedback and taken that feedback just as so well. Like the experience of being in the arena. Double, I think. I think there was 4 instead of 2.
No, there were 4 for the first game.
Okay, I don't remember. I
know what you're saying.
Sorry, were there food trucks outside on the outside on the plaza area? Is that what was going on?
Yeah, there's food trucks on the plaza plus more food options, I think, open and more takeaway options available. Obviously, there were fewer people, but everything seemed much more organized, all around. So it was really good to see.
Yeah, looking at the crowd from the press box, honestly, I will say that I think that it was nothing short of a success for them in terms of what they were up against. I honestly wasn't sure if it was going to be super full in there just because of the fact that they're coming off of it's been about a week since they last played in Vancouver. They had lost 3 in a row, so maybe some of the excitement had worn off a touch. Plus the fact that they were going up against the Whitecaps game, I really thought, oh, this could be a game where not a lot of people show up to just because of those reasons specifically. And so for 9,000, it felt full. Like it felt as full as it could be in there regardless. And I was like, okay, I think they're gonna be fine, considering I do think that in terms of like sports and like entertainment dollars are concerned, that yeah, there were probably a lot of people who went, oh, instead of going to the Golden Eyes game today, I'm going to go see the Whitecaps. I'm going to go to the Whitecaps watch party because there were like 19,000 at that. And I have to imagine there were at least some people in there who forewent their Golden Eyes tickets to go to do that instead. So I think they're doing just fine. And yeah, in terms of like the arena experience, I can't speak too much to that because again, I'm not
You're not of the
No,
people.
you're
I'm not of the
special.
people. I'm in my ivory tower, watching like the Grinch on Mount Crumpet, from the gondola. No, it looked like like I heard from all the people that said they went. It seemed like they had a really good time, and that the atmosphere was really good. Especially like there's still so many bugs to be worked out for not just the Golden Eyes, but for the P&E in terms of again like what's it like to have a major pro tenant in the building again. Like so they're kind of learning how to iron out all that stuff again. It's so different from like a concert or any other event. Like Disney on Ice was there recently too. So like I'm sure the crowd for that was very different as well. But yeah, the Golden Eyes came out and put on a show. They put on their best performance of the season. They looked like the team that we thought they were going to be right from the get-go. It took them 4 or 5 games. They got there. They looked 1,000 times better in this one.
Yeah, I would say so. I will say that even though the first period they put the work in, it was work. The first 5-10 minutes, like it felt like they were way behind the 8 ball. Don't know if that was fatigue or not, but they had to fight to get back in this game. And I think that's a really positive sign when you can not give up a goal when you're behind the 8 ball. Again, like praise and kudos to Emma and Smashmeyer for that. But yeah, it wasn't like plain sailing despite the scoreline.
No, they had to and they even in the second and third period, like they didn't sit back too much, which I liked because that was a big thing. As we learned, they hadn't played with a lead all season until this game. So we got to see what they play like, what they're gonna play like when they have a lead. And my biggest concern for them was, okay, are they just going to sit back and let the Sirens kind of dictate the pace of play for the next 40 minutes, especially with like a multi-goal lead? And in the second period, it looked like New York really put on the pressure. But in the third period, it was much closer. Like you kind of saw them get back to attacking, being more aggressive on the puck. Because I think the biggest mistake a hockey team can make is when they get the lead, they stop playing the way that got them that lead in the first place. Yeah, they take their foot off the gas and they just go into a defensive shell. And I don't think that's a good mentality to have. I think, like, yes, because it's frankly a lot harder on your body to play that way, to always be defending. It's much better to be aggressive and continue playing exactly the way that got you the lead. You want to set that idea of playing a full 60 minutes and consistently being attacking and aggressive as much as possible. And yeah, I think in the third period, there's a reason why they scored another goal in the third period, because they went back and they started challenging again. And the shots were a lot closer. They were 11-7 for New York instead of 10-4 in the second. And yeah, like, I mean, one of the things that got talked about, we talked about Mashmeyer, that save on Sarah Fillier, one of the greatest saves I've seen live. I saw it in slow motion. I could see her stick getting across, and I was like, "Wow, that's a big one." That was one of those ones where like, "Oh, that's I'm gonna remember that for a long time." Seeing just Sarah Fillier get to the back door, nobody's checking her, open net. You're thinking, "Oh, this is the game right here. This is the lead," and Mash makes a huge save, and place goes nuts. And that ends up being like the cementing moment of a shutout for her. And Brian Adolski talked about it after the game as well. Like that, it's a completely different game if that puck goes in the net. It's a entirely different. Like she turned that game entirely off of that one save.
Yeah, and I
And
think Sarah Fillier was one of the like lead lead players in the game, the loss against New York, that just felt like a threat every time she was on the ice. So I think that's a huge moment, even just psychologically.
Oh yeah, Fillier was their first overall pick a couple years ago. They have both of them. They had both of the first overall picks, other than the inaugural one, which was Taylor Heisey. I can't even. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce her name. Katulkova. I'm learning as we go here. They have they have both of the last two first overall picks, and you can just see how quick and how like they're a young, talented team that is still learning how to play, also kind of still learning how to play as a group like Vancouver is, but they have all of this this younger talent that goes that runs the engine for them. And for Vancouver, it's a little bit more of a veteran presence. They still have some younger players. They didn't go completely like veteran laden, but you look at this game and you see the younger players stepping up, like Jen Gardner, who has been like it was only a matter of time before she put the puck in the net, and I'm sure she didn't imagine her first goal going in the way that it did, where it goes in off the defenseman's skate and back towards the net. But it's a jailbreak goal, so that's pretty cool. It's in front of the home fans. That was just kind of the icing on the cake of that game, is just getting to see Gardner score and getting to see the first goal for Ashton Bell, the captain. Like there was a lot of good storylines out of that game as well, not just a good win.
So overall, as they did in the week, went 500, which in our books ain't that bad. It's a shame that there is now an extended break before they play again. They do have two at home, but we have to wait just over a week to witness that. If there is a saving grace, it allows for them, I feel, to really reinforce themselves as a cohesive unit, as a team, through practice, through team building, to build that trust. It's just that, I feel like, having witnessed the highlight package that I watched, again, caveat, I was fortunately making poor choices, the momentum somewhat lost. So I hope that they are able to rediscover that when they get underway in, was it a week and a half against the Ottawa Charge.
Yeah, I do wonder with the PWHL, with the scheduling, I wonder if they maybe made a slight error in not giving Vancouver more, if by sending Vancouver on an extended road trip right after the first game. I think it would have benefited them more to play at least one more game at home before this break. I don't know. That could be more due to what the P&E had scheduled for the Coliseum.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because wasn't Disney on Ice in town recently?
Disney on Ice was in town. I don't know for how long that was. But I imagine that had something to do with that. But then, yeah, you have the international break. And then even after their game against, I think they have one game in January at home. So they have, it's something very weird. The scheduling for Vancouver at home is very weird to start out. They have, the benefit of that is that they'll have a lot of home games at the end, which could be beneficial in a playoff race. But it is going to be, I am very interested to see how they keep themselves kind of in the local zeitgeist, especially if games are, especially if they're playing more towards like a win one lose one kind of team, as opposed to like if you're winning, that's the marketing. You're winning in itself is doing all the work for you. You don't have to worry about that stuff. But if you're kind of just in the middle, or you're kind of just on the bubble, yeah, that's going to be they're going to have to put a little bit more legwork in. And without games at home to do that, it will be interesting to see how that goes. But yes, I think the week that they have coming up here is going to be really big. They're already talking about how, while they have players that aren't going to be there because of the rivalry series and the international window, all the players that aren't are going to be at practice working on everything else. And that will be nothing but beneficial for them. Like this is a team that only had 1 week of training camp and 2 preseason games before the regular season started. Like, that's not a lot of time to get to know people. That's not a lot of time to learn what works and what doesn't on the ice. So for them, yeah, having this whole extra week to work on things, it'll bring them at the very least more up to speed with the rest of the league's teams.
So we'll be talking about the Vancouver Golden Knights next week, the week that will be, because the week that will be is currently empty. So probably time for us to talk about the Vancouver Canucks and the fact that they're equally not so good. At least in the week that they've played. I don't want to say equally in the context of the Vancouver Golden Knights.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's not heap 55 years of Vancouver Canucks hockey onto the Golden Knights. That's not fair.
Sometimes the mouth makes noise, but the brain does not work.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I've seen so many people doing that already, being like, "Oh, Vancouver teams are cursed again." Like, because Sarah Nurse got injured, they lost 3. They're like, "Oh, this is just classic Vancouver teams." I'm like, no. Let's not chalk that up to anything the Canucks have done or anything else in Vancouver. Too many people are already doing that. I'm like, no. It's 5 games. Let's take a chill pill here.
Yeah.
So Vancouver happened to go into Colorado. Anna and I were really optimistic that the Vancouver Canucks would at least arrive in Denver. That was, I think, is the extent to which we gave them credit. That was, I mean, let's be honest, that's sort of what happened. Though Linus Karlsson, who you just can't stop this kid, you can only try to slow him down, got Vancouver on the board early, and it looked like, dare I say it, the Vancouver Canucks were on the way to a nice PDO injected into my veins win. But
it was a beautiful goal. I have to say that.
Yeah, it was. But there's a lot of hockey that was left, and the Vancouver Canucks in that game didn't. Well, I mean, maybe they realized there was a lot of hockey left, but they chose to park that bus. Maybe hope that the referees would lose track of time. I don't know. Colorado seemed to take it personally, and the ice was tilted towards the Avs. And once Nathan MacKinnon tied it up, it just felt like inevitable that the Vancouver Canucks were probably going to lose this game, which, they inevitably did. What good can we take out of that game? The fact that they didn't get shellacked and only lost 3-1?
I think the good we can take out of this game is that they're a step closer to Gavin McKenna. No, I think that, well, it's really funny because Nathan MacKinnon was talking about after the game, and he said, this is one of the most boring games I've been a part of all season, and like talking about like something along those lines.
Coming from him.
Rich coming from Nathan MacKinnon, yes, but like I see where he was coming from, but also at the same time, I think I quote tweeted that and said something like, "This is one of the most exciting games the Canucks have played all year." So it really tells you where the standard is in Colorado compared to where it is in Vancouver. With what's a moral victory here. Yeah, Colorado's just, they're so top to bottom talented. Like they're everything every team in the league wants to be. They have star power. They have depth down from line 1 to line 4, right into their next man up, and who they have sitting in the press box. They have great defense, great goaltending, and goaltending that doesn't even have to be like name brand goaltending, just being top notch goaltending. Scott Wedgwood and Mackenzie Blackwood are, the Woods. Yeah, the Woods. You got your irons and you got your Woods. They're not necessarily, considered world beaters as far as goaltenders are concerned, but they've been anyway. They just are, because they're doing all the right things in Colorado. And then you look at a team like Vancouver and you look at the methods that they have used to get to the team that they currently have, and you see all the flaws, you see all the things that they're missing. And I think the best thing you can take out of games like that is you learn what you need in those games, and you learn what you're missing. And it, in a way, I don't want to say it depends on who you ask. It's beneficial to take losses like that sometimes, because you will inevitably learn more about yourself and more about your club and what you're missing. from playing teams that talented and playing teams that have that skill. And you're better for it. You learn how to beat those teams the more you play them as well.
Yeah, I do think something else you learn in terms of the gap is that you can have a team like that will just be able to coast half a game. Like Colorado were not putting themselves out to crush the Canucks, and the fact that they could just take their foot off the gas and still win 3-1, I think, is a big indication of that cavern between.
Well, take your foot off the gas, still score goals, and by the way, swap your goaltender midway through the game because Wedgwood picked up an injury, and Blackwood came in cold and didn't seem to be like it was just Colorado was going to win that game. It was just a matter as to what the score would be.
Yeah.
Now that brings us back to Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks then get to face the Utah Mammoth here in Vancouver, and dare I say it, Vancouver learned that you shouldn't play hockey the way you did in Denver, and instead decided to play a much more comprehensive hockey game in a 4-1 loss to the Mammoth.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And honestly, perfect juxtaposition of two teams, right? Like, and I hate to be all doom and gloom here, and but
go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If, Colorado is the example of, the best teams in hockey can have their worst night and still win.
Mm-hmm.
And the Canucks, appropriately falling into dead last in the National Hockey League before this game, proved that they can play their absolute best game and still lose like very clearly. So I think it's, and that's unfortunately that is what a last place team does. Like people can be like, oh, the injuries, oh, this hasn't gone right or this hasn't gone right, but at the end of the day, if you're playing your absolute best and still losing, you are a last place team. You belong where where you're at. You're not some team that's just underperforming. You're just unfortunately not that good. And the worst thing the Canucks can take out of this game, or like where they're at right now, is going, well, we're just a few pieces away. We just need a few things.
Whoa.
You're cooked.
They're just a few pieces away, just a couple of breaks to the positive, a couple injuries that don't occur, a couple of years will be there.
All they're missing is 2 superstars, three more centers, just a few very easy things to pick up in today's NHL. Very easy things to fix. That's Vancouver at the end of the day. Is they're a team that looks for the quick fix all the time, and that's why the boat's still sinking. Like you can't just patch the leaks with a Band-Aid. You gotta make actual fixes to it.
Yeah, there were many though that would have described that game against the Mammoth as just your typical Vancouver Canucks game playing against a hot goaltender. Like Vejmelka did well, but it never really occurred to me that Vancouver truly challenged him. Like those high value scoring opportunities were not prevalent. Sure, you're shooting the puck, but you're not dangerous when you're doing it. And, I dare I say, like, I'm the type of guy who just says shoot the puck half the time. You never know what might happen. But I think that's more a result of how the Vancouver Canucks can go games, where shooting the puck seems to be an allergy that they're trying to avoid. So, is what we then see against the Wild, them finally figuring out that not only do you need to shoot the puck, you need to shoot the puck in a way that generates potential? Or is it just a hot goaltender theory?
There's such a balance to to shooting, because there is, yes, like I think great teams can get to 30 shots with ease, but there are also the quality of those shots will be good. The Canucks get kind of into this, like there's always a their balance is never right with the Canucks, where either they're not shooting because they're focused so much on finding the perfect shot, and getting the perfect shot away. And then there's nights where they will throw everything at the kitchen sink, but nothing's that dangerous, like you said.
Yeah.
With Vejmelka, it was funny seeing people be like, oh, they're just running into a hot goaltender. We're talking about a goalie who hasn't been all that good this year. Like Vejmelka's not a terrible goaltender by any metric, but I also don't think he's been necessarily a Vezina caliber guy. So if goalies are just playing really well against you, it's probably because you're not really doing that much to make their life all that difficult. Like, you could throw all the shots in the world at a guy, but I know from my own personal experience, like if teams just threw shots at me from the blue line all day, every day, I loved that because it meant that, that's just a long shot I'm going to see every time, and I'm going to just swallow it up every single time. As long as they're not getting towards my crease, I don't care. So with Vejmelka, he was spitting out rebounds all over the place.
Big time.
Like, there was plenty of secondary chances they could have been getting that they just weren't getting on top of. And yeah, like, you're not going to necessarily win games if you're not doing everything. Like, you have to, it's not just the shots on goal tally is just a number. You have to actually find, like, yes, there is a matter of, you should throw pucks at the net. You should look for bounces. You should do everything you're about. But at the same time, you do need to find the right shooting lanes and get into the high danger chance, like, zones, to create more scoring chances for yourself and give yourself better opportunities, create your own luck.
Yeah, I think that what you said about the rebounds is just, like, so spot on, because in Canucks' previous game against Colorado, when they lost in overtime, like, Mackenzie Blackwood had just gave up so many rebounds, and Canucks were not capitalizing when they should. And I do think Blackwood's figuring it out a bit, but yeah. So it's not a case of hot goalie. It's a case of Canucks aren't good enough. Even when they are good, they're still not good enough. I don't know if that's a moral victory or a loss, real loss plus moral loss. I don't even know.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think the Canucks are a team that needs to kind of, I think they're a team that needs to come to grips with the fact that they are 31st for a reason, and that they're not just going to magically turn into a second wild card team out of nowhere. So in a way,
Adam,
I kind of look at,
they're only 6 points out of a playoff
yeah. That's.
If
I mean,
the amount of times I've heard, we were right there with them. It's like, yeah, you were right there, but you didn't win. So who cares?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't blame him for saying that, because you kind of want a coach to be saying, you don't want a coach to be going into the locker room or projecting to the media, we're lost here. Like, we are not good enough. So I don't blame him as much, as long as he's not thinking in his head that that's actually true.
But I kind of get the feels he is.
That's my concern, is I think that he might believe that to a degree, because again, we've heard it so many times. You can only say we were we were so close, or we were right there so many times, especially in games where a lot of the time you're getting like 15, 16 shots. It's like, okay, were you actually there, or did you just happen to play well defensively, or the other team just kind of took a night off and still beat you? Like, what are we what are we counting as we were right there? Was it like that? It's they're a team that's just, they have to hope everything goes right for them to be even in the game, and that's kind of what I mean. And the Minnesota game's kind of an example of that too, where like everything went well for them. That's why they won, because everything went right.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say everything went right. Like, when you see, Elias Pettersson out for the warm up, but then being
that's true. I'll give him that.
And your number one center is now David Kampf.
I'll give them that. You're right. I will give them that. That is unfair of me. I should say they were, not having Pettersson in your lineup is pretty big.
Yeah, but to your point though, everything did go right. Like, the Vancouver Canucks didn't have the best first period, but it didn't matter. Minnesota wasn't doing a whole lot with the puck. The second period, Vancouver simply shot the puck and scored. 6 shots, 3 goals. Abbotsford Canucks showed up. Like,
Yeah.
and Filipilo made the saves he needed to get the Canucks into the third period. And yeah, final score 4-2, but that late goal didn't really change the momentum of the game too significantly. And I, quite frankly, wasn't too worried. I can accept it. Vancouver's going to win this game. That's what they do when they look like, oh my goodness, the world is falling down. This is the game that's going to go and cause things to change. They're like, no, we're not that bad. We're going to win. We're going to give everyone that dose of positivity just to show we're only 6 games out of the postseason.
But if you are looking for a positive spin that is also still realistic about this team, look at the score sheet. Look at who was in goal. Like, that is a positive look at your future for the Canucks. The future is just not right now. Like, that's not a viable like case for winning. But like Artu Ratu, like Vilander, who like seems to be an NHL guy right off the bat, like pretty much with very like little starter steps in there. So I think we should be positive about that Minnesota game, just not get carried away that this changes anything about the current team.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is also a Minnesota team that had lost 4-1 to Calgary 2 nights earlier. So it's not like it's not like a Minnesota team that's playing particularly well, or I mean, when has a Minnesota team ever played particularly well? Let's be real. Let's be real here. But yeah, like Vancouver, if you really want to take a positive out of that game, is your young guys stepped up. And what always seems to be the issue with the Canucks whenever we get into the question of like, oh, they don't want to rebuild, they don't want to do any retool, is that they think as soon as they trade all the veteran guys out, that these young guys who are coming in, people aren't going to want to watch, or they're not going to be interesting to watch, and so people aren't going to stop caring or stop showing up. Look at what your young guys can do if you give them an opportunity. If you're not like stapling them to the bench for 5 minutes in favor of giving Evander Kane 20 minutes of ice time.
Whoa. Lekkerimaki needs to earn his time like the next player does with its 4.5 minutes in the game or whatever it was he played.
Yeah,
that's how
No, go
18th place Vancouver does it, damn it. Like,
Yeah.
Gotta earn that. You think you just get onto the 17th best team in hockey without merit? Come on.
Yeah. I don't know what Evander Kane has done to earn his ice time lately. And when I say lately, I mean the last 2 seasons.
Maybe he's good in the room. I mean, it's
I-
never been said about him before. But
San
I
Jose
gotta-
Sharks if he's good in the room.
Yeah, I'll give the journalism diplomatic answer I can. Just, the Canucks clearly like him. They feel that he brings something that they're missing. And yeah, like he's, it's a there's the Vancouver guy aspect to it. So he sells tickets. I question the logic
for the Canucks in the modern era.
I question that logic completely,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
but again, like,
That's the logic. Yeah.
but that is a microcosm of all the other things that they've done and all the other decisions that they've made. And, again, you look at what you can do when you rather than focusing on chasing these name guys, you just let your young guys take charge and get their opportunities. And that is the best thing forward for Vancouver, is that they can be a team that is, tanking whatever you feel about it isn't, oh, we're going to purposely lose games. It's developing. It's letting your young guys figure it out and not worrying about, oh, so you lose a game here and there. That's okay. We're not going to lose sleep over that. It's completely fine to let them figure it out and let them learn from the experience they're getting. There doesn't have to be this idea that it's bad to learn on the job and to lose hockey games here and there. Just let them win, because if they win, great. If they lose, it's not a huge deal. That's the important part of it.
Yeah, so I'm old, so I recall, the era before the West Coast Express. But if there's one thing I do recall, was that you had a group of young players who were fun to watch. Yeah, the team didn't win a whole lot, but you could see the growth in the players. Now, there is a mindset in the NHL, and I'm just a guy who eats cashews in the basement. So what is it that I know? That you can't build a team in a losing culture. Well, to me, a losing culture is not one where all you do as a team is quote unquote lose. I feel the culture is something that you can define, and a winning culture is how you can grow as a team, grow as a player, develop. Like that Vancouver Canucks team in the West Coast Express era, when did they light it up and turn things on? They weren't a good team until they went on a road trip, a lengthy road trip out east. It was in November, and Mark Crawford not only decided to have them all be in, go out and watch the Remembrance Day ceremonies in Ottawa at the time, but then another day take them out to like a frozen pond instead of a practice and let the guys have fun. And they went on an absolute tear. And I feel like you have a young roster, you need to know how to foster and build from that. Did the team have extended success during that period of time? No. I mean, there's a few good years of the West Coast Express era until an incident. And, it had to go another 5-6 years before things started to turn around again. I just look at what we have here in Vancouver. We see the potential. I make light, the Vancouver or the Abbotsford Canucks were the ones that led the team. But to the point that both of you raised, how else are they going to grow? How else are they going to have these opportunities? How else are they going to develop? I would love for the Vancouver Canucks to be in a position where they have too many young guys who all deserve a spot on the team and have all this potential that, one, attracts the eyes of other teams willing to give you much better value than you probably would get otherwise, and in turn give you as a front office the flexibility to actually cash in on windows as opposed to trying to force it open as they are right now.
Yeah, exactly. And go for it.
Okay, I was just going to say, like, in terms of a losing culture, I can't see how any of the last 10 plus years, like, have shown anything but, like, loser culture, like Jim Benning, like, everything about the regime of Jim Benning is loser culture. Like, everything about how they've handled Quinn Hughes and Petey's, like, early career of, like, two superstars has been like loser mentality. I think light at the end of the tunnel is way more positive a direction, I think.
But light, see, I will agree with the perception that light at the end of the tunnel will not fill the barn. And this team is a gate-driven team. Ownership wants that revenue. And
who isn't though? Like, if the ownership had really like invested in this team, they would have had far more playoff games than they actually ended up having.
Look at the Panthers. They went from literally basically an empty arena a few years ago to back-to-back Stanley Cups because they knew that they had to take the long road to get there. And they lost
this ownership
money.
Group ain't willing to do that. Like, you're right. Yeah, what happened down there in Sunrise? They were tarping the upper bowl. Like, it was lower bowl only game in
they
Sunrise
had, like,
for a good
giveaways where you'd get free tickets if, like, Panthers scored.
If you just showed up. Yeah, if you just showed up. It's, in Vancouver, I wouldn't, what I even say right now is I don't even think it's not even that they have a losing culture. I think they just don't have a culture at all. I don't think there is one. I think they're just a team, a group of players that show up to the rink for practice and for a game. And that's it. Maybe they hang out of the rink sometimes because they're friends or whatever, but that's it. There's no, I don't think there's a lot of pride in the uniform. I don't think there's a lot of, like, I don't think it's a group that really sees themselves as Canucks so much as hockey players and just NHL players playing out a contract. And I don't think that's, and you could, like, maybe you could chalk that up to players themselves. I think that comes from the top. I think that comes from setting a tempo from the top of your organization down. And that's why the Canucks are in this position where they're always in the middle. Like, they're not even losing enough to say they have a losing culture routinely. They just are always mediocre in the middle. And even the one year they win the division out of nowhere, like, it everything went right for them that year, and then they come back completely crashed earth last year, and somehow this year's been worse. And it's something. At some point, you have to decide what is going to be your legacy as a group. What's going to be your legacy as an organization under this current regime, under this current ownership. You have to decide if this is what you want to be forever. This just team of, I guess, just players of mercenaries kind of playing it out, or do you want to actually build something bigger beyond yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I think because we saw the transition from the Sedines, and they obviously tried to keep that culture going, like by having their little protege in Bo, and for various reasons, Bo didn't necessarily get the support on and off the ice that like to continue that legacy. And I'm not like gonna relitigate the Bo versus JT thing, but um, there really like hasn't been, yeah, like you say, anything to like stand out what Vancouver is. And like Vancouver's a great city. Um, sure you have to pay tax because apparently that's difficult for millionaires to do, but like who wants to live in Utah? Those players are having a ball because the team culture has been built up. But like, yeah, it's
And
not impossible.
yeah, look, another great example, the Sharks. They're losing all the time. Look how much
Yeah.
fun Celebrini and Will Smith and Tyler Toffoli are having all the time. Like, that's because they've built a team that enjoys the game and is not letting the losses get to them. They know that they're building towards bigger things, and look how much fun they're having. Like, there's so much more there's a reason that they're already past the Canucks, that they've already jumped ahead of them. Anaheim, another team that's like setting the right tempo and is building something bigger than what they've been, and they've taken their time to do it. And
Neither of those
the
teams is just a couple years out with a couple players away, and a couple
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah, they have work to do, but you can tell that they're
See, they're not as close as
already
the Canucks.
they're not as close as the Canucks, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
being facetious when I say this, but it's
yes.
I've heard this message for far too long.
Yeah, again, that's been and people haven't liked me saying this too much, but it's like, it's been 10 years of this. Like, there's been a couple playoff teams in the mix there, but this is the same song and dance we've been doing for 10 years. I've been covering the Canucks in some capacity since 2015, and it's been the exact same thing over and over and over again, and I'm tired of it. And I think most people are tired of it. The people who aren't, I have questions for. But yeah, I think that if the Canucks wanted to do the right thing and were transparent about it, people would be fine with it. People would get on board. I think people would be more inclined in some ways to buy tickets and to buy merch if they know that there's something building, if there's something under construction, that they're going to get something fun at the end. Right now, that's not the case. Nobody wants to go see a team that's just kind of like paddling in quicksand.
Well, speaking of seeing a team, the Vancouver Canucks do have games this upcoming week. They're at home on Monday against the Detroit Red Wings. They're at home on Thursday against the Buffalo Sabres. And then they head out on an Eastern road swing just to get things wrapped up before the holiday break by heading out to New Jersey to take on the Devils, where Quinn Hughes gets to go and hang with the brothers. That game is a 9:30 a.m. puck drop, just for those who are paying attention. You need to get up a little early to watch it. So, Lachlan, Anna, 3 games. How many points?
Oh boy. I mean, Buffalo should be a game you could win, right? In theory, that's a game you probably could win. I don't know about any of the other ones on this list. I mean, New Jersey hasn't been particularly good of late either. It's, they're trying to get reinforcements, apparently. I don't know who that is. I don't
That
know
might be.
who that could
Fitzy's
possibly
been on
be.
the phone.
Fitzy has
you
been
haven't
on
heard.
the phone he hasn't been on the phone with Quinn. That's
No.
what we heard.
No.
Definitely don't pay no mind to the fact that he called him Fitzy. And is clearly on a first name basis with him. But yeah, I think the Canucks, again, if things go their way, if things break their way, if teams they're definitely a team now that they're in the bottom of the standings. They are a team that could catch other teams off guard or like kind of phoning it in. So, and if you're able to do that, and if you're able to pounce on that opportunity when it's presented to you, you can win. You can win any game. It's just a matter of, not, you have to be ready to go from the jump, because some teams might come into it thinking, we can take our foot off the gas and we'll be fine. So I think looking at the schedule, I think they'll get maybe 2 points out of this next 3 games. Other than that, I'd be surprised to see more.
Anna?
Also 2 points. I think Lachlan makes a valid point about like catching team unawares. Canucks don't generally do that at a game at 9:30 Pacific.
Oh no, that's guaranteed loss for me.
Oh, that's true. I forgot to factor that in. Yes, that is a guaranteed loss, but 2 points anyway.
Yeah. Also, don't let Quinn come to the game. Just don't let him in to the arena.
Well, so that might not be our choice by that point. I mean,
he might suddenly find his gear just being thrown into the other locker room by without anyone noticing. Just chucking it in there.
I mean,
hopefully. I mean, they don't have anything. Here's the thing: at least from my perspective, the Devils don't have anything really that great to offer. So I don't know what you would get out of that.
The Hughes that like not going to give up. Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about this, I think, even last week, but like, when I'm sure he loves his brothers, there's no way he would even be like thinking for a millisecond about New Jersey if like Canucks were in any sort of decent shape.
He doesn't have any say right now. Like,
that's
the scary part.
I know that, and like, but it's also like he's the older brother that clearly has been looking after his brothers his entire life. So I think
one of them needs some care because he can't be trusted.
Yeah, he can't even.
Yeah.
Like, hockey players are not real adults. Let's be honest.
So 2 points, Anna?
2 points.
I'm giving them 3. I'm going to give them a loser point against Detroit. Yeah, I'm positive. Look at that. They're gonna. I feel they're gonna beat Buffalo, and as we've discussed, guaranteed loss against the Devils. Not because it's the Devils, because it's a 9:30 a.m. start out east. So, or Pacific, 12:30 out east. Those early starts are always rough for Vancouver Canucks. Anyhow, we're gonna take a break. You're listening to the C4 Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna, Chris, and Craig.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
As we go on a half full, half empty, we wanted to talk about the machinery conversation that tends to happen in Vancouver come the end of November, and that is the tank. Is Vancouver in the position to roll that tank on out? And is it even their choice? Lachlan, thoughts?
So there's two answers. If I was in charge, or if knowing the way that the Canucks operate, right? If it were me in charge, I would say, yeah, it's time to pull the plug. It's time to start letting the young guys take over, trading out guys as quickly as you can, and accumulating as many draft picks as you can for the future. And, not worrying about the results for now. Tell the fans it's going to take some time. It's going to be a process, but we want to get it right because we want to win a Stanley Cup, and we want to win multiple Stanley Cups. That's what we want to be. We want to be a winning organization. That's what I would be going for. Now, knowing the Vancouver Canucks and how they like to do things, I think that they will do everything in their power to avoid any sort of genuine rebuild. They will trade players out for picks. and then immediately flip those picks for someone else, for someone already on another team, for some guy who's just because he's under 25, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy will fix everything. Look at how much we're doing here," as they give up another first round pick for nothing, just for some guy to be a second line winger. And I think that's what, again, this is the never ending cycle. It will, until I see them get, like, until you can see they've clearly been haunted by 3 spirits at Christmas. I cannot ever realistically believe that they're going to do the right thing, because they've given me all the evidence in the world that they're not going to do the right thing, and they're not going to learn anything.
I mean, completely valid answer. My question would be, if they keep playing at this level, where do they finish? And they don't make a big trade. They don't trade Sherwood. They don't trade Garland.
So, like, if they stand pat completely, like they trade no one, they keep absolutely everyone on the team, more or less. But
more or less.
I think they. I mean, again, watching them play, that's so uninspired. I don't think they'll finish much higher than they currently are at. Maybe they won't finish dead last, but I don't think they finish. I don't think they finish higher than. Yeah, they are ahead of Nashville right now. I don't think they would finish any higher than, like, 4th last, 5th, like bottom 5. I would be stunned. It would almost be like, oh wow, you really punched above your weight there if you got into like 6th last or something. But again, the NHL is the NHL is a weird league where you can go on a run at the worst possible time and take yourself right out of the lottery conversation just because you caught other teams on the wrong time. So yeah, I think I think if they stand pat, the team's just, even with everyone healthy, I don't know how much better you're gonna get.
I mean, I guess the worry would be that Demko gets healthy and becomes Demko again at just the worst possible point, so Canucks end up just missing the playoffs again.
That could very well happen. Knowing the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, sorry, Thatcher Demko, putting that thought into the universe. I'm sorry.
I don't disagree. Like, the Vancouver Canucks, as they are currently designed, are not a good team. Like, they've got some good players, but those good players do not equate to what we're seeing in a good team. I just wonder if Jim Rutherford, being as wisdomous as he happens to be, knows that this team needs to be rebuilt, knows that ownership has an aversion to that type of talk, and is instead going to go and try to make the team younger with much more flexibility and fluidity to deal with a post-Quinn Hughes universe. Now, you had mentioned, like, they might go and offload players, get picks, and then promptly swap those picks for other younger players. I don't necessarily see that as a horrendous decision, so long as it's not one that's, all these great young players that we've gone and offloaded every one of our picks for is what's going to lead us to the promised land. To me, that's the team that bridges you to get these, future Vancouver Canucks, Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, Gavin McKenna, somehow, probably not through the draft. But the point I sort of view that the Vancouver Canucks to be in is that change must occur. Like, status quo is no good. Now, if I'm completely wrong, and Patrick and Jim go out and bring in the next Evander Kane, like, at what point do you as a fan accept that that's okay? Like, is that now blind faith? Like, trust in the front office, they know what they're doing? Like, I can't see Jim and Patrick doing that. I could see whomever takes their job when ownership lets them go do that. But I wonder if we're maybe in a stealth tank.
And because like to kind of tack onto that, let's say even the Canucks do somehow get the first overall pick and get the opportunity to draft Gavin McKenna. The way that they've proven that they operate every year, they will draft Gavin McKenna, but then get nothing else, and that will be they'll be like, you see, we did it, we finished the rebuild over, we got our one player, and that's it. Like, the problem isn't even really that they're unwilling to finish dead last. It's that they it's like, again, like they trade these picks away for these guys who are just middle of the road, might help you bridge a gap, but they think that they're going to be part of your core long term or something. And rather than accumulating as many picks as possible, drafting as many good young players as you can at once and hoping that believing that you've built a good enough development program that those guys will all rise up together into a really good core group, into a really good team. The Canucks are of the mindset, and frankly have been even going back to the Hughes and Pettersson years, where they drafted basically the exact number of draft picks they had when they got them, right? Like they were they trade picks in and out, but they never had an abundance of them. They would just kind of make their 7 picks a year and that would be it. So the Canucks have to fundamentally change what they're willing to do. And I think regardless of who is in charge, like we've talked about the culture and setting the right tone organizationally, until the people at the top are willing to let them go out and accumulate those draft picks and build the team from the ground up the right way, we're just churning. We're just churning, doing this over and over again. The cycle never ends.
Because it's not even that I don't trust Jim and Patrick to like work on this team. It's just they don't have the mandate to do that, because who I trust even less is a new management group that like feels the pressure to get into the playoffs straight away.
No, that's why I sort of said, like, whoever takes their jobs, we're getting the next version of Vander Kane and cloned copies of them brought in. But I was listening to friend of the show, Patrick Johnston, on Sakaris and Price, and he had sort of talked about his conversation with Jim Rutherford and how Jim was saying, hey, call it whatever you want. The team needs to get younger. If you want to call a rebuild, whatever, but that's, not what we're doing. It then got me wondering, like, okay, maybe Jim, like, again, hopefully smarter than his boss, can pitch what he views as, hey, we're just getting younger, to them as like, oh yeah, I'm getting these good young players, great value. We've got some picks too. It's going to cost us this great player, but these good young players, they're going to make us competitive. Oh yeah, this is the way to go. Exciting hockey. Just as another way of saying it's the bridge to the actual build. I want to have faith.
I mean, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I hope you're right too. I just also think back to when they came in and when Rutherford and Alvin came in the first place. And I remember one of the things they said very early on that I remember raising an eyebrow at was, oh, we want to trade for players that are 25 and younger. And that's our philosophy. And they're kind of saying that again. And it's like, okay, well, if you guys just keep trading for players who are 23, 22, you're not exactly doing a whole, like, that's kind of an arbitrary choice to make in a way, right? Like, it's like, we're not saying they have to get young across the board. You need veterans on a team as well, but it's a matter of, okay, are you just getting them because they're under 25 and you think they might turn into something, or are you getting them because they're genuinely a good piece to the puzzle? Like, and that's kind of what some of the moves they made this year have felt like Lucas Reichel is a player where it was like, oh, well, he's young and he was a former first round pick or something high in that regard. And so he might be something. We might be able to turn him into a reclamation project here. And then turned out very quickly, oh, no, we're not going to be able to do that. So if they keep making moves like that, we're going nowhere. So if they can sell it to ownership that they're, it's just very hard, because if they sell to ownership that they're getting all these young guys, again, it's, well, who are they? Who are these young players? Are you just getting young players for the sake of getting young players? Or are you getting, like, are you clearly working towards a longer term goal with this group rather than just trying to fill spots that you have and just try to plug all the holes?
Yeah, I think also to, like, not to be negative, but I do see more what Lachlan is saying. Like, I don't think that getting younger is necessarily code for, like, picks and stuff like that. I think it's more a case they, like, it has come out through, like, insiders, and I mean real insiders, not people just that go around insulting people's children, that they still prefer players, like, over picks. Like, so I want to believe in Chris's version of the future, but
Yeah.
I know. Okay, I know my version of the future is complete fantasy. I truly do. But boy, would I like it not
yeah.
to be.
And
Yeah.
and to even like just to add on to that as well, like one of the things like they talk about always about getting younger and everything, like one of the things that's been a big issue for the Canucks over the last however many years is they're not a fast team. They always look like they're going to be a faster hockey team, and then they just cannot keep up the pace with these other hockey teams.
How much is that a coaching issue, though?
I think the coach can only do so much with the player. I just like I look at the roster and I don't think they have a lot of quick players or fleet-footed guys. And when I think of a team that's young and skilled, I think of a team that's fast, that draws a lot of penalties because they're able to win puck battles and go off to the races and think on their feet faster. And yet the Canucks keep always bringing in these guys who don't make them much faster, who don't make them play smarter hockey. And I mean, with the rare exception of a guy like Philip Hedl, who is a very smart hockey player, who has a lot of skill and is fast, but he's injured all the time. So that in itself was kind of you got this player, but you got it with a clear asterisk on what he's able to bring over an 82 game season. So it's all about the execution at the end of the day.
Well, and the reason I talked about coaching, Hedl is going to be my example. Big asterisk, obviously, his history with injuries. But there was a period of time when he first came to the team where, wow, this is what exciting hockey is like. And then suddenly that seemed to go away. And Tocchet had talked about how he needs to, understand the system, where we need him to be. Then he gets injured. Off season occurs. Hedl himself says, "Yeah, I was confused. I didn't quite understand. I struggled with that, and that impacted my play." This season, he did seem to be a little bit faster. Obviously, gets injured, but I think back to the Boudreau team, like that Boudreau coach team. If there was one thing that could be said about it, it was high event fun hockey. Problem, that high event was both directions. And when the Vancouver Canucks don't have a superstar goaltender standing on his head, keeping the team in it, things fall apart. And I genuinely wonder if what we're seeing is a combination of Tocchet and foot hockey and a coach saying, here are the players and the personnel that I want. This is what they need to be able to do. And if they don't, I'm not going to play them. Hoglander last season. Here's a guy who demonstratively improves Petey's play, but is constantly pulled off of Petey's line because he's not playing the game the way we want him to play, which I'll be honest, I didn't see a fault in his game. He was a responsible player. He fought hard for a puck, but there was something about his style Rick didn't quite like. We've beat this horse long enough. We'll probably do it again next week, as Anna and I are apt to do. But I want to sort of wrap things up here. And as we transition into the end of the show, Lachlan, I'd like you to let our listeners know where they can find more of you, because I imagine they can.
Yes, so you can find me at Canucks Army. I write the Stanchies every now and then. I am Wyatt's better half. No, I'm just kidding. He's the best. He's an absolute treasure and an icon. I kid about it.
Don't pump that guy's tires.
He's it's my job to pump his tires. I believe. So you can find me there. I write articles. I do goalie stuff for Canucks Army. I do a bunch of other articles as well. You can also find me on Substack, where I cover the Golden Eyes. I cover the Golden Eyes on Canucks as well, but mostly on Substack at lockandthecrease.substack.com. And you can find me as well on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well for any sort of Canucks content. Subscribe to my YouTube channel.
I've seen the videos that you've been creating in Wyatt's Discord server. I must admit I may have watched a couple of them. Far more talent than I've ever possessed. So well done, good sir.
Thank you. We're learning we're a rebuild. We're working in progress right now. The videos are going to get better.
I'd like to suggest that I am setting you a very high bar, but let's be honest, when it's talking about me, if there is a bar, it's on the ground. So you far exceed my abilities. If you've reached this point of the show, though, and you were curious as to how to connect with us at C4, C4podcast.com is our website. It's got our entire back catalog of all of our episodes, all of the social media handles, because consistency ain't our thing. On Twitter or X, we're at the C4 Podcast. On Blue Sky, we're C4podcast.com. And on Instagram or Threads, we're at the real C4 Podcast, because there ain't no fake ones out there. I just couldn't get the handle I wanted. Anna, any final words of wisdom for our listeners this week?
Just that it was great to have Lachlan on. Even if the tone is inevitably depressing about the Canucks, I think it's hopeful when we're talking about the Golden Knights. And yeah, I have loved reading Lachlan's stuff so far, especially the Goldies. So encourage everyone to check that out.
Thank you so much.
Lachlan,
I appreciate it.
Got some final words yourself?
Final words. You know, at the end of the day, we're watching hockey. We get to have so much fun just talking about hockey all the time, and you know, it's a journal. Like there's been talk over the last little while about, you know, how journalism people, they love it when the team's bad. No, we don't. We love it when a team is good. We love talking about a team that wins and is consistent, because it's so much more fun to be around the team. It's so much more fun to talk about. And I hope that someday we're here talking, next time I'm on this podcast or any time in the future I'm on this show, we get to talk about a team that's genuinely fighting for a Stanley Cup and is genuinely contending in the National Hockey League. I hope that day comes. And I hope by that time the Canucks finally come to their senses and retire Roberto Luongo's number 1 jersey. That's what I got to leave it on as well.
Final words of wisdom from me. If you're ever coaching an 8-year-old girls soccer team, the double knot is your friend. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I've tied far too many shoelaces, and the double knot is your friend. Lachlan, thanks for joining us. We'll have you on within the next, few months maybe, as opposed to a few years as it's been. Anna and I are just, like that. We have good people on the show. They show us up, then we don't want those good people back again, so people can remember that Anna and I are the real deal. But thank you. I also want to share that if you reach this point of the show and you'd like to support C4, you can do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast. Buy me a coffee, otherwise known as
Buy me a pint.
And you can throw a few bucks our way to genuinely buy us pints if and when Anna and I get together again. Or alternatively, you can support us on a recurring basis, monthly or annually. And in doing so, gets you access to our back catalog of the C4 Off the Rails post-show. There are episodes. I will produce them. I've actually blocked some time over the Christmas break to get that back catalog grown. And then in the new year, we'll probably be recording some more. Speaking of the holidays in the new year, as is our practice, we generally take an episode off over the holiday period. This year, that week off will be the week of December 28th, which means the last show that you're going to hear from us in your ears for the new year is going to be recorded on December 21st. And then I'll get back together January 4th, and then we'll continue on into 2026. I'm going to be all on my own on the 21st. Heaven forbid I don't find a guest and you have to listen to me talk for an hour. But again, we've got some time to burn, and maybe Lachlan will do me a solid and come and, save me. Who knows? But on behalf of Anna, A4th3, myself, Chris at Lightforce, and Lachlan at Lock in the Crease, I'm going to sign off this episode with those magical words of "We out."